We are the Office Blokes. I'm Office Bloke Dave.
I'm Office Bloke Mike.
I'm Office Bloke Daz.
That's it. In a room, all of us are the Office Blokes.
Yeah. It's true.
There you go. It is true. UK troops lay British soldier killed in US nearly 250 years ago to rest.
Oh, right, okay.
I kind of seen the headline on the news the other day.
Right.
I don't know what it's about.
It just came up in the feed.
I think I do know what it's about. I just want to see it like that.
Self-explanatory.
Yeah, it's kind of self-explanatory, but I don't know what you know.
It just came up in the feed. So what would 1776, would that be 250 years ago, around that sort of time? Just before that, 1760 something.
1773 would be, wouldn't it, I suppose?
Right, and that's
it depends. Is this up to date, this, and is this just
it's just brand new,
yeah, recently happened.
Yeah, it's just come out.
Okay. It says nearly 250 years ago, so you're talking about like the American Civil War at that time.
It wasn't the Civil War, was it? It was the War of Independence.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. It sounds, just off the title alone, it sounds like it's going to be quite a crazy story. Like, I wonder if they've identified who the soldier was somehow.
Maybe they could have done.
It'd be madness if they had.
DNA tests and things like that.
Would have been laid to rest anyway, if that was the case. I don't know, they've identified it. I'm thinking they've come across the body somewhere that's, I don't know, in some kind of like, they found the body somewhere.
Yeah.
And then they've...
Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose maybe there was paraphernalia around the body, buried, that identified him as a British soldier.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll find out.
I might have found like a betting slip in his pocket. It said like 2-1 for USA to win.
That's how we got to collect his winnings then, eh?
Fish and chips wrappers next. They survived somehow. Let's do it. UK troops lay British soldier killed in US nearly 250 years ago to rest. Let's do it.
A 21st century funeral for an 18th century Highlander on American soil.
We gather to recognize, memorialize, and reinter the earthly remains of 13 of the 14 found hastily buried in this dirt.
Thousands turned out in South Carolina to mourn, and it was a funeral like no other. Honouring British and American sacrifices from the 18th century after archaeologists made a remarkable discovery. On this soil in 1780, the Battle of Camden claimed the lives of thousands. It was one of many hard-fought conflicts against British rule that eventually led to the creation of the United States of America.
This is not only a once-in-a-career, but never-in-a-career opportunity. So it's been such an honor and a privilege to be able to help understand who these individuals were and how they may have died. The Highlander was our deepest buried individual, much more than the other individuals. Some people were this far below the surface. You could really witness from the burial context how hastily buried they were, and historical accounts of some not having been buried at all. The day that we exhumed him, someone brought a bottle of scotch to commemorate the event and give him a toast.
It's mind-boggling, isn't it?
It's kind of a bit weird. Imagine him like being invaded now by, like, I don't know, by Russia, and then in 200 years' time they find like a Russian body who's come over here, and then they said, let's give him a send-off.
Yeah,
and a bottle of vodka
as well, isn't it? By looking at it, proper send-off as well, isn't it? There's a lot of people there, and all the pomp and ceremony and everything.
I think it's maybe an acknowledgement that soldiers, like boots on the ground soldiers, are doing their jobs for their countries at the time, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
I wonder how they knew he was Scottish, or if they're just
probably just skirt him.
Fair point. And also, some of the coffins had American flags on. Some had.
He said that's what he said. British and American soldiers, didn't
he? But how did they differentiate between them? They must have found things around them. Artifacts and stuff, I guess.
Yeah. I'm sure if it's a well-known battle, I mean, I'm guessing they probably would have known maybe who the people were as well, had names, and I'm sure they'll do DNA things down the years where people knew that they had a relative that fought in the war, maybe there. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, if thousands of people died and that was just one battle, then, like if you sent someone off to war in what is now America, you probably wouldn't hear anything of them ever again, would you, back then?
No.
You probably wouldn't even find out that they died.
Missing in action or something, isn't it? I suppose, so that'd be it.
Crazy story though. Imagine, like the difference in the world from then to now, like for that person to have any awareness that in 250 years helicopters would be flying over their funeral.
Yeah, of course.
It's kind of what's it as well. It's like you said, how would they know who they are? So I think, has he been named? Have they actually identified him
idea.
like that, or is it just like he's British through DNA or whatever they've done?
Not sure.
Again, maybe it's artifacts around him or something, because they've differentiated. They're saying that he's Scottish, or at least a Highlander.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe they'll say.
Soldiers from 2nd Battalion, the Royal Regiment of Scotland, flew over especially to be pallbearers for the remains of one of those unearthed here. His heritage traces back to the British 71st Regiment of Foot, Fraser's Highlanders, a Scottish regiment formed for the Revolutionary War.
It's something that's very humbling and I think thought-provoking in terms of thinking back at the history, and then also hundreds of years later being able to be involved in giving the soldier the send-off he deserves is something that I'll be proud in years to come of.
Across all 3 services, we have 850 service personnel across 30 states out here, working and literally, hand in glove, the closest military relationship we have, working extremely closely with all of the US services. It's a relationship we really cherish.
So we're all operationally experienced soldiers, but to lay a soldier to rest in the battlefield where he died almost 250 years ago, I think adds a sense of significance for us, and it's not lost on us that we've got soldiers in our battalion who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in recent operations as well.
We're just mesmerized by the fact that Great Britain chose to fly them here from Scotland to do this. I think for both nations, it's important to reconnect with our history and understand who we are, how we got here, how then we transition from enemies to close friends. And the mood in the town of Camden and in Columbia yesterday is just palpable.
In the days before the ceremony, a convoy carrying the soldiers passed through the local community, giving people of all ages the chance to pay their respects.
We read the information and we knew what was to be expected, but I just wasn't prepared for the emotions of it all, because there was not a pin, you could not hear a thing drop out here. It was silence.
We're headed to Fort Jackson. That's where all of the US Army's soldiers do their basic training, and we're expecting to see hundreds of them come out to pay their respects to the soldiers in what will be the finale of the convoy. And it's just been incredible to see the response, to see the connection. And what a turnout when they arrived. Hundreds of personnel were keen to catch a glimpse of the convoy. Fort Jackson's commander, Brigadier General Kelly, was moved by the chance to honour them.
That's right, our ancestors.
So what more do we know about the British soldier? I've come to meet a former US Army sergeant who's now a reenactor and military historian.
It probably enlisted in 1775, 1776. So he had already been soldiering for 4 to 5 years. And the 71st, they marched everywhere. They covered the entire state of South Carolina at one time. So the British Army always used them as the shock unit coming into a battle because they were greatly feared.
What do you think he would have made of all of this?
So they were used to death. Death was an everyday occurrence and a partner in their life. So I think he would have been happy to see it as a ghost standing there going, yeah, I appreciate that, chaps.
The remains of the American soldiers will be kept with the US Army and the Highlander with the South Carolina Battleground Trust until a cemetery can be created at the site where they will all be buried together. Jean Gweszczak, Forces News, Camden, South Carolina.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how it took so long though to find it, if it's like it was, I don't know, a battleground area.
Yeah, you'd think so.
And somebody said we're only this far from the top.
Yeah.
They may have found hundreds of bodies, and for some reason, culturally, things are in a way at the moment where they want to honour particular people.
Yeah.
You know, whereas they may have found bodies decades ago and not really made a thing out of it. I don't really know.
It's strange. It is, but even, around the world, things are still being found out and excavated by geologists. It seems to be happening, still all the time. You think, well, yeah, you do think, why didn't they find it before? Obviously it's a site of interest, but yeah, it's a weird one, really. But
yeah,
incredible story.
It's just mind-boggling when you see how the world's changed. And like at that point, you're fighting for the Commonwealth as such, and then the Americans are fighting for their independence from the Commonwealth. And then now the burial happens, and it's Humvees, helicopters, artillery, cannons being filmed on phones, broadcast on the internet. It's kind of mind-boggling, isn't it?
Just a bit.
The three idiots there reacting to it.
I know, no one would have guessed that.
No.
In a million years.
Anyway,
Wow.
Hope you guys enjoyed that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one.
Cheers. Guys.